back at back here at fucking Green Dragon CVR to talk to you guys once again, and it won't be the last time about Fire Emblem.
Definitely not.
No, it won't be the last time. Perplexed, just like with Bloodstain, that we've already made this many videos about it, but when you found something good, you stick with it, you know?
It has grasped me a little bit more now that I got through some of the beginning parts. Came out at a bad time for me, but
no, I understand.
now that I'm fully like diving in, it grasped me. It's kind of captured me. I've been playing it nonstop like crazy.
It's good, man.
It's sick, and I'm still way behind you.
I think at this
About
stage,
20 hours in.
Yeah, about halfway, I would say. If you're at that Holy Tomb
Well, yeah, I'm
segment.
at the Holy Tomb. Yeah.
That's about halfway. I'm about 50 hours. I'm in the second last week of the game. I didn't want to do the last mission without the capture, so gonna have to do it soon. I have no rush to finish the thing, you know. There's one battle left. Fucking.
It's not like there's anything coming up soon that's gonna. We still got some time before, if you are gonna play Oninaki and then Astral Chained.
Yeah. I don't know though.
Astral Chained.
That's coming at the end of.
Astral
is that the end
Chained.
of August?
Astral Chain comes out the 30th.
I have the thing right there.
For my birthday, I remember that.
Astral Chain. Oh yeah, August 30th.
Oninaki, I think, comes out.
Yeah.
I dare say this Friday or next Friday.
I ordered one from Play Asia. Mine might come late. Fuck.
That one will come late.
Shit.
But is it digital only if you don't order it? Import. Okay,
Yes.
so that one we can download if we choose.
Yeah,
so.
if we want to play it for sure.
But
I don't mind waiting a bit for a title of that caliber though.
Yeah, that's probably not a huge game. It's no Fire Emblem or
for sure. Yeah,
I don't know what Astral Chain is going to be like.
I think Monster Hunter World's going to be a big. That was a huge game last year, and the remake should bring a bunch of the expansion should bring a bunch of people back in. And still, like at this stage where I left it, there's a shit ton of stuff for me to do in the end game before the expansion comes out. I'd like to touch on. Like
I have a lot to do.
Yeah, it's a good game. You're gonna have fun, man.
Yeah.
The main game is especially fun and not grindy at all compared to the end game where you have to like farm guys for upgrades. But even in the midst of that, like you have ancillary goals, like you go after these things called the Elder Dragons, like these iconic Monster Hunter guys that pretty much make up the end game content. There's 4 or 5 of them.
Cool.
I think there's also those like crossover monsters available now in the month before the expansion launches, like Behemoth and the Witcher one. What the fuck? I
heard something about that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a good game, but
nuts.
We'll leave that aside for another couple of weeks. And I guess last week we discussed a little bit about the themes and like the overarching, like the specific difference, the universe of Fire Emblem and the themes. And I guess today I'd like to bring it back to the ground and talk a little bit about, at this stage, at least from the mid-game onward, we can talk more confidently about the progression and its relationship to the, the discrete components of the gameplay, the 30-second loop. I like to think of these parts as...
30-second loop.
Yeah.
It's a lot longer in this game, though.
Yeah, the 30, that being like the root of, not the art assets and this asset or that asset, but when you put all the assets together and finally have a discrete component of gameplay, the main loop of the game, I guess. I like to think about that as the building blocks of the game versus its proportions or its progression, and we're here to tell you a little bit about how those two elements relate to each other in Fire Emblem at this late stage in the title. And, as I just said, I guess the progression structure in a game is kind of it's the sensible symbol, the tangible way that you engage with the development of the action in the game, with the history or the story. Here in Fire Emblem, there's a true sense of gameplay progress as the narrative unfolds from the class system, which has been a series staple since we started playing the game with Awakening. We started playing the series with Awakening. Important story aspects imposed from the start on progression. The academic setting offers a structured means for players to tinker with their characters. Events pertaining to the protagonist's apparently divine lineage or even Edelgard's ascension to the Imperial throne manifest in class or weapon advancements that tangibly alter progress, enabling less repairs or sometimes requiring more powerful, unique weapons. The passage of time is important to monitor as events, sometimes of great importance, become locked or available on certain calendar dates.
I broke my save from not
it's possible,
paying attention.
That's right, yeah. The game
I
is
had to restart the game.
The game is not afraid of like changing your loop
save.
or even like, rendering it obsolete and making you restart.
I just screwed up the loop
due to like not dealing with progress. Yeah, that's right. The protagonist's repute with his colleagues and students even impacts his available activities on any given day, including on hard, that is, how many battles you can complete in a day, which inhibits the possibility of over-leveling content or even grinding, really. Certain bosses and battles are locked to certain days behind side quests specific to a certain unit's backstory even. House selection will determine the direction of the whole second act, the units available in the first place. It's just to say, like, the story filters down to the progress, and the progress totally governs the moment-to-moment gameplay loop, Progression structure, like in this sense, is like the proportion of the game versus its discrete, like Lego building blocks. It governs and feeds back into instances of this recurring short-term gameplay loop, The shortest discrete chunks of Fire Emblem Three Houses gameplay, it's undeniably fun and addicting, that 30-second loop, but it's not enough on its own. You have to have more. You need to have progression, right? Intelligent Systems, I think, really succeeds at this juncture of plot and core loop geometrical proportions of the game and the discrete parts, you know? Just as it was in other entries in the series, it's incredibly satisfying to set like a late game class goal for each of your units, you know? I actually wrote down like what I want them all to be.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, and in this game it allows you to actually set a goal for them according to what stats they require to reach their new... Oh, it's so cool, man. As with other entries in the series, it's incredibly satisfying to, you know, set a late game class goal for your units and encourage their advancement in the monastery in this case. It's a neat new feature they added here by instruction and in battle through careful micromanagement, making sure that underleveled units move in to take kill shots. As experience is slowly accrued, units advance from no-name kind of starting classes like Noble and Commoner through beginner fantasy archetype classes like vaguely like healer, tank, or melee range DPS onto like exciting and powerful late game determinations or specializations of that basic like healer, tank, DPS archetype, you know?
Yeah.
The 30-second loop, quote-unquote, what people call that anyways, it resultantly develops and changes at a satisfying rate with the progress of your units. At the start, equipped only with like a shitty short sword or whatever they come with right off the bat, you know? Slow movements and squishy characters. Each battle really feels like a walk along the edge of a knife, really.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? At least on hard.
A slog on hard.
You're fucked, right? One wrong move and you'll see an exposed party member killed. Attacks miss routinely. Attacks miss routinely. Characters separated from the main combat group will struggle to return before the battle concludes. They're pretty much wasted, right?
Yeah.
You send a guy out to deal with
an
outlier.
On hard. It is tough to start the game on hard.
It is for sure.
Yeah.
But as the story moves forward and units grow and reclass, battles really open up, you know? The palette of combat options exponentially increases and it becomes possible to develop like incredibly specialized parties of like armored knights with the Empress at their head, protecting a backline of deadly sorcerers, you know? Units can confidently stride across the map at greater speeds, you know, with great faith in the fact that they have a counter in their toolkit to the challenges they'll meet, you know? Everything that you encounter, there's an appropriate counter that you possess. If you see flying guys, you deal with them with arrows or magic, whatnot, right? Knights you deal with magic. There is a mechanically prevalent sensation that your party is becoming more powerful as the story informs you there are. You know, as progress happens, your character actually feels like he's developing, right? And as he becomes more important in the story, he becomes more important on the battlefield as well. The core loop, considered as the repeatable set of discrete gameplay mechanics that make up the moment-to-moment experience, it's not overturned. It's not like it's transformed entirely, but it develops, you know, in this long-term progressive sense. And I guess just, you know, as an example, at the beginning of the game, we often felt like side goals, like unlocking chests or doors or killing unique enemies, you know, it felt like impossible to complete. You just didn't have the resources to branch out. I didn't even look at it, man. You know, there was no way you could do it.
Beating all the other,
just to get through the game, just to get through the mission,
just to get through. Yeah, exactly, like you said.
It was impossible to divide our units and still triumph, or to move away and return a few guys later to reach secondary goals in a reasonable amount of time. It wasn't possible, right? Reinforcements had to be immediately addressed, as it was impossible to outpace them. It was necessary to plan for two characters to attack each enemy in order to kill them and prevent attacks on friendly targets we had not planned for, you know? The experience was very reactive in the early parts of the game, but contrarily, at this stage in the mid-game or later, with multiple knights, for example, ranged attackers and healers, it's often possible to divide units into two parties and to send them to opposite sides of the map, offensively seeking to counter or avoid challenges with newly available tools. You know, like knights can be sent to draw out enemies into that purple attack zone and soften them up. Even if they don't kill them, they can soften them up for killing blows on the next player turn. Units in danger can be teleported away by healers. Dangerous mobs can be frozen in place to prevent attacks on casters. You know, dangerous melee units. Where at the start we relied on any available unit to do kind of like piecemeal chip damage and hope for the best. Now we have designated nuke units. You know, though they're less hardy than knights, they can't take as many hits.
Especially you just the main character.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, now he's like everything. Yeah, he usually never dies. Yeah, it's impossible. He's way over leveled now too. But you can keep your crazy casters. Like late game female casters can become this class called Gremory, and they have all white and all black magic and multiple like casts of each of them. They can rescue guys, they can nuke guys across the map. Yeah, you could just have 3 of them behind your main unit by a fair margin. And anytime somebody attacks your knight, if the guy doesn't die next turn, he's done for sure. Yeah, there's no way. Yeah,
big support wall, man.
Yeah,
it definitely changes the way you play.
It changes a lot.
Mid-game forward, depending on how you build your units and set your classes and all that stuff. I mean, you can really do what you want, but obviously it makes sense to have a little bit of everything, right?
The challenges imposed on you, though, are harder to deal with at the beginning, and it obliges you to act reactively. Whereas at the end, when you kind of accrue all your counters to the problems you'll face, you're you're able to sit there and be like, this is what I'm going to do. The game will react
yeah,
to me, right?
You can go in with a plan rather than, like you said, reactive, rather
Yeah.
than just, oh, shit.
Yeah. The 30-second loop really becomes a 30-minute loop, you know, as battles become less a reactive jumble of discrete fights or dealing with health or durability shortages, and it becomes more like a meticulously contrived, like dance, you know, wherein the player can plan his moves and attacks entirely in advance and not engage in battle except on his own terms. With housekeeping considerations mostly become a non-consideration after a few hours into the game, the player can reroute attention from damage mitigation to secondary objectives, for example, optimizing the advancement of underleveled units or maximizing his own damage via favorable unit placement and pairings, like with adjuncts or with adjacent units and their support bonuses and stuff like that.
Which I was going to say you should do in terms of treasure chest stuff. If you can pull a unit away with a key to grab a chest, there's usually like a good item.
Yeah,
or
some
something
crazy
in
like
there, right?
high
Which
tier item.
probably would have helped early game, but it was like on hard.
Yeah.
It was almost, like I said, not even a consideration.
Yeah, it's
You're
very
just like,
difficult.
Okay, fuck it. I just can't deal with this right now.
Yeah. It reminded me of in the early stages of Sekiro, in the sense that like there's a problem the game poses to you, and there's a reaction that it demands of you, and you have really no choice at the beginning but to concede like its demand, right? You have to react in the way it wants, but later on you understand the problem and you have many answers. More like an immersive sim at that stage. You have a bunch of tools in your toolkit and you can solve the problem as you like. Some of the missions even like cater to that mindset, like the one where you have to fight the Death Knight, or you can choose to kill everybody else, right? There's like multiple ways to complete.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like if I went into that now, like the last one, I think I just I killed all the enemies and the Death Knight
just disappeared. Yeah.
But now I feel like I would just go straight for him.
I face tanked him. Yeah, because I'm not playing on classic. I'm playing on the casual mode. So
same.
One of the few times in the game, I was like, I don't really want to fucking deal with this shit, man. I'm gonna just send everybody to him and
send everybody just straight in. Bam. Yeah. One of them will get him eventually, right?
It took a couple of hits. They just all died.
You get a dark seal for doing that, which is used to, I think, some of the advanced classes or master classes.
I unfortunately don't have any of the characters who can do it, I don't think.
Oh, no? I could probably turn Lysithea into one.
She can, yeah. I think Hubert, too, but he goes with Edelgard. Yeah, that's I guess that's something that struck me the most about this middle component of the game, the middle chunk of the game, was the way in which you really recognize that, you know, unlike certain kinds of games where they have a core 30-second loop, they have the mechanics down, and they're like, fuck progression, you know, this is what you're going to be doing. Here, the progression, which is, again, governed by the story, which is governed by the universe and themes, you know, the progression here totally governs and alters your 30-second or your moment-to-moment gameplay loop. The proportions of the game govern its discrete components, so in that sense, it has an integrity to it, right? There's a harmony about its parts, you know. It's really enjoyable to play.
There is a lot of shit in this game.
Yes.
Like, if we made 4 videos on Bloodstained, we could probably do like
definitely.
If we got into detail about like, there's a sheer just a mess of content.
The nice thing about it, though, is that nothing really fucking feels tangential, right? Like even the stupid shit, like having tea characters.
I was gonna say the support conversations. Yeah. You just go through the menu, and I never watch them. Do you watch them? I just skip them all.
They're characters I like, but some of them are annoying. Yeah, I watch a lot of them.
What do they talk about? Like,
they talk like, dude, they write a lot.
Dialogue.
Like, they all have really personalities.
Like seasons of a soap opera for this game if they wanted to.
They have really good the characters are well developed.
Impressive.
Right? It is.
There's a lot there.
There's a lot of soul to it. You know,
if you bought this game and you could buy like one game a year and only afford that, this game could really I think it'll keep you busy. Lasting power. Yeah, if you wanted to go through it all.
Yeah. Not to mention the second act is pretty much different depending on the choices you make in the first.
Right.
There's all kinds of
about where I'm at.
Yeah. It's really cool, man. But nothing really feels tangential in the sense that like even the tea and the support conversations, like developing these support relationships between your characters. Suppose, you know, between two characters they have S-level support. You have them on the battlefield next to each other. When one of them attacks, the other one will receive like a noticeable damage increase, right? Like it's the difference between one-shotting guys and not one-shotting them sometimes, having two guys paired up with each other.
Yeah, beneficial.
So my main guy, he has that Manuela, that professor, like an S rank there. So I always have her right behind him. And every time she attacks, she gets a bonus. Yeah. I'm going to marry her after.
Funny game, yeah.
I'm going to marry... Oh, shit. I'm going to marry Manuela.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Dude, how does that work?
I don't know. Sometime in the end game, I haven't put much effort into figuring that part out. I don't care that much.
I'm not going to talk about this part of the game, because I'm going to say something that's not going to come out the way it should.
But one nice thing to note is that there's much less romance in this game than the others, in fact. Yeah.
Really?
For better or worse, because in the previous games, like, part of the romance was to have a child that had, like, the stats you wanted and add them to your army, you know? But in this one, it's not like that.
That's really fucking weird.
This one, you only in the end game, I know.
There's got to be a line here. Come on. We're playing a video game.
That's interesting. That's some good shit, yeah.
What a game.
So do you have any closing thoughts, bud? That's about everything I have to say.
Not really. I'm just happy that it's finally like gotten. It's finally like it was a little bit of a slog at first to get into the game.
Sure,
I liked it obviously, but it didn't like really grip me. Like I didn't feel that sensation that like I would walk in the door at home and be like, "Fuck, I need to play Fire Emblem." Now I'm starting to get that. Like it's starting to really click.
I feel
and
you.
it feels so good.
I get it. All right,
Trust
guys.
us. That's worth. I can't speak English.
Doing better than most, bud.
Yeah.
All right, evening.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Cheers.